At 5 in the morning, my phone exploded with alerts, not the gentle chime of a text message. This was urgent, insistent, the kind of sound that dumps adrenaline straight into your bloodstream. I was at my Lake Tahoe cabin, 2 hours from my Palo Alto home, lying in bed with the window open to let in the cool mountain air. For a moment, I considered ignoring it. But then I remembered. The cameras. The system I had spent 3 weeks installing, configuring, testing. The digital tripwire set specifically for this moment. I sat up, reached for my phone, and opened the security app. The screen lit up with camera feeds from my house, and there she was, Sienna, my daughter-in-law of 6 months, standing in my living room at 5 in the morning with 3 men in work uniforms and a film crew. One held a camera on a stabilizer, another adjusted a ring light. Sienna stood center stage, hair perfect, already made up for the camera. My heart should have been racing. I should have felt panic or fear, but I felt something else entirely. Satisfaction, cold, clear satisfaction, because I had been waiting for this. I had been 10 steps ahead of her from the beginning. I switched between camera angles. The hallway showed my front door standing open. The kitchen camera caught a man opening cabinets, taking inventory. The bedroom camera showed another lifting my mattress, checking underneath. The living room camera, the one with the best audio, captured everything Sienna was saying. She was talking to the camera in that carefully modulated tone I had come to recognize, the one that sounded caring but had an edge of performance. "This is so hard," she said, hand pressed to her chest, "but sometimes you have to make difficult decisions for the people you love." My mother-in-law, Margaret, had this incredible career as a software engineer, but lately, she's been forgetting things, getting confused. This house is just too much for her to manage alone. I watched her gesture around my living room, the space I had furnished over 30 years. She was performing, and not just for the film crew. I noticed the lapel mic, the way she kept glancing at her phone propped on a tripod. She was live streaming. I grabbed my laptop, opened Instagram, found her account, 50,000 followers. Right there, a red circle pulsing live. I clicked it. My living room. Broadcast to 50,000 strangers. Comments rolled in. "You're such a good daughter-in-law. This must be so hard. Sending love." The caption read, "Helping mom transition to assisted living. She can't manage this big house anymore. Pray for us." Heart emoji. Broken heart. Praying hands. Hashtag family first. She was telling 50,000 people I was incompetent, that I was being moved to a nursing home, and she was doing it while standing in my house without permission, directing men to take my belongings, performing grief for an audience that had no idea they were watching a crime. But I knew, and I had evidence. Every word recorded in high definition, time-stamped, uploaded to the cloud, every movement captured from multiple angles, every lie documented. I had built my career writing code, debugging systems, solving impossible problems. I had approached this situation the same way, methodically, carefully, with patience and precision. I texted my attorney, Diane Ross. "It's happening." She's at the house with crew and movers, live streaming, cameras recording everything. Alert police. 3 dots appeared. Her response, "Police dispatched. ETA 7 minutes. Do not engage. We have everything we need." I set my phone down and took a deep breath. The mountain air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and cold lake water. Outside, the sky was lightening, stars fading as dawn approached. I had come here after Sienna and Brandon's wedding, needing distance to think and plan. 6 months of watching, documenting, preparing, and now, finally, the trap was springing shut. But to understand how we got here, to understand why I was calmly watching my daughter-in-law commit felonies while I sat in a cabin by a lake, I need to go back to 6 months ago, when my son called to say he had met someone special. If you're still listening, tell me where you're watching from. Every comment you leave is another mark in this journey, and if this story has touched you, don't forget to hit like so it can reach even further. 6 months earlier, I was living what most people would call a good life. I'm Margaret Chen, 62 years old, a retired software engineer who spent 3 decades in Silicon Valley. My husband David and I bought our Palo Alto house in 1992 for $400,000. Today it's worth over $1.2 million, not because we did anything special, but because we had the timing and geography. Silicon Valley exploded around us. David died 10 years ago from pancreatic cancer. He was an entrepreneur who started 3 companies and sold 2. He left me comfortable. The house was paid off. We had the Lake Tahoe cabin, investments, stock options that paid off. After he died, I thought about selling. The house felt too big, but I realized I liked the space, my neighborhood, walking to the farmer's market, my book club, teaching coding to kids. I was alone, but not lonely. There's a difference. My son Brandon was 35, working at an AI startup in Mountain View, smart, driven, maybe too focused on work. He called every Sunday, visited monthly, remembered my birthday. We had a good relationship. He was my only child. And after David died, we got closer. One Thursday afternoon, Brandon called, not Sunday, Thursday. "Mom, I have to tell you something. I met someone amazing. I was making tea, looking at the garden David and I planted 20 years ago. That's wonderful. Tell me about her." Her name is Sienna Blackwell. She's 29, a lifestyle blogger and influencer with 50,000 Instagram followers. We've been dating for 4 months. 4 months without mentioning her. That was unusual, but maybe he wanted to be sure first. I'd love to meet her. Come to dinner Saturday and you and Charlotte, if she wants. Charlotte was my closest friend, a widow who had known me since our kids were in elementary school, my witness for important moments, my reality check. I'll ask her, but I'd love to come. Saturday arrived. Charlotte and I drove to Brandon's Mountain View condo. I brought wine and homemade apple pie, his favorite since childhood. Sienna answered the door. Beautiful in that carefully constructed way that takes hours but looks effortless. Long dark hair, perfect makeup, designer jeans and silk blouse. She smiled wide. "Margaret, it's wonderful to finally meet you. Brandon talks about you constantly." She pulled me into a hug that lasted too long, her perfume sweet and overwhelming. Inside, Brandon's condo looked different. New throw pillows, framed prints, candles everywhere. "Sienna has great taste," Brandon said proudly. "She's been helping me make this place feel like home." During dinner, Sienna talked constantly about her Instagram, content strategy, brand partnerships, plans for YouTube and podcasts. She asked questions too. Where did I work? Was I retired? Did I live alone? How big was my house? What neighborhood? Palo Alto, I said, near downtown. Her eyes lit up. That's such a beautiful area. The real estate is incredible. You must have bought years ago to afford it now. 1992? Wow, that was smart. The value must have skyrocketed. She leaned forward. "Do you ever think about downsizing? It must be a lot of house for one person." Charlotte went very still beside me. That tiny shift in energy that meant she noticed what I noticed. The question was too personal, too soon, too focused on my real estate. "I like my house," I said. "Of course," Sienna said quickly. "I just mean maintenance and everything must be exhausting." She smiled, but something calculated flickered behind it. After dinner, Sienna made smoothies. "I'm really into wellness. These herbs are amazing for cognitive health, circulation, energy." She blended something green and thick, poured glasses, handed one to me. It smelled strange, earthy and bitter under banana and honey. I drank it to be polite. Charlotte barely touched hers. Brandon finished his and praised it. Sienna watched me drink, tracking the glass to my lips. 30 minutes later, driving home, I felt strange, tired, foggy, like thoughts moving through mud. Charlotte drove because I felt too sleepy, but it wasn't normal tired. It was wrong. I don't like her, Charlotte said quietly. There's something off. Did you taste that smoothie? It was bitter. I had tasted it. Felt the wrongness. But I didn't want to be that mother who never approved of anyone. So I said nothing. I went home, slept 12 hours straight. When I woke, I felt hungover, disoriented, confused. For a moment, I thought maybe Sienna was right. Maybe I was getting old. Maybe managing a big house was too much. Maybe this was just being 62. But then my training kicked in. Decades of debugging code, finding problems, not accepting surface explanations. Something was wrong. And I was going to figure out what. 2 weeks later, Brandon called with news. Mom, I have something to tell you. Sienna and I are engaged. I was in my study, working on a coding project for a nonprofit. Engaged Brandon. You've only been together for 4 months. 5, actually. And when you know, you know. She's the one. Mom. I've never been this happy. Something in his voice sounded rehearsed, like he was repeating words someone else had given him. That's wonderful, honey. Congratulations. Have you set a date? That's the thing. We want to get married soon, maybe 2 months from now. Sienna's already looking at venues. She found this amazing place in Napa Valley. 2 months, from engagement to wedding in 2 months. That's very fast. Why wait when we're sure, again, that rehearsed quality? Sienna's really excited. She's already planning everything. After we hung up, Charlotte called. She had seen Sienna's Instagram announcement, the ring photo, the caption about finding her forever family, the hashtags about Silicon Valley life and new beginnings. Did you see the comments? Charlotte asked. People are asking about Brandon's background, his job, his family. I pulled up Instagram. There it was. The ring sparkling in perfect lighting. Sienna's manicured hand. Brandon's hand barely visible in the frame. And in the comments, questions. Is his family in tech? What does he do? Palo Alto family. Sienna had answered some. His family has deep roots in Silicon Valley. His mom is a retired software engineer. They've been here since the 90s. She was building a narrative, not just about their love, but about access, about belonging to something valuable. The wedding planning started immediately. Sienna called me 3 days later. Margaret, I found the perfect venue. It's a vineyard in Napa, absolutely stunning. The only problem is it's a little expensive. $30,000 for the venue. Catering, everything. I waited, she continued. Brandon's startup salary is good, but not quite enough for what we want. And my family, they're not really in a position to help. I was hoping, since you're Brandon's mother, you might want to contribute. It's traditional for the groom's family to help with wedding costs. $30,000 for a wedding 2 months away for a couple that had known each other 5 months. How much are you thinking? Well, if you could do $15,000, that would be amazing. It would mean so much to Brandon. $15,000. I had it. That wasn't the issue. The issue was the assumption, the pressure, the speed. But Brandon was my only child. This was his wedding. Let me think about it, I said. Of course, take your time, but the venue needs a deposit by Friday. It was Tuesday. That wasn't taking time. That was pressure. I talked to Charlotte. $15,000 for a wedding in 2 months to a woman he barely knows. It's a red flag, Charlotte said. A big one. But I didn't want to be the mother who refused to help with her son's wedding. So I said yes. I transferred $15,000. Sienna posted about it on Instagram, not mentioning the money, but posting photos of the venue with captions about dreams coming true and family support. The visits increased. Sienna came to my house twice a week, always with smoothies. "I made your favorite blend," she would say, handing me the green mixture. Every time I drank it, the same thing happened. Fog, fatigue, confusion that lasted hours. I started documenting. In a notebook, hidden in my desk drawer, I wrote dates, times, symptoms. After smoothie, 5:30 p.m. Felt disoriented by 6. Slept until 9 a.m. Woke confused. This wasn't normal. This wasn't aging. This was something else. Sienna's comments became more frequent too. "This house really is huge for one person. Don't you worry about the stairs. What if you fell? Or see, managing finances must be complicated at your age. All those accounts, investments, it's a lot to keep track of." Or, "Brandon worries about you being alone. He says you forget things sometimes." I didn't forget things. I had a sharper memory than most 30-year-olds. But she was planting seeds in Brandon's mind, in her Instagram followers' minds, maybe even in mine. I discovered her Instagram content strategy by accident. She had posted a series about caring for aging parents, not mentioning me by name, but the timing was obvious. Recognizing cognitive decline, when to have difficult conversations, supporting elderly family members. The engagement was massive. Thousands of likes, hundreds of comments. "You're so caring. This is so helpful. What a good daughter." She wasn't just manipulating me. She was building an audience for it. Documenting her performance of care for 50,000 followers who had no idea what they were really watching. I sat in my study one evening, looking at my notebook of symptoms, at her Instagram posts, at the wedding invoice showing my $15,000 contribution, and I realized something. This wasn't random. This wasn't opportunistic. This was planned, calculated, strategic. Sienna Blackwell had studied me like I used to study code. She had found the vulnerabilities, the entry points, the weak spots, and she was executing an attack. But she had made one critical error. She had chosen to attack a woman who had spent 30 years finding and fixing vulnerabilities in complex systems. And I was very, very good at my job. The wedding took place on a perfect Saturday in May at a vineyard in Napa Valley. Rolling hills covered in grapevines, golden sunlight, a ceremony under an arch of white roses. Sienna wore a designer dress that cost $3,000, according to the tag I glimpsed in a photo. Brandon wore a custom suit. There were 200 guests, most of them Sienna's influencer friends, people who spent the ceremony taking photos for Instagram instead of watching the vows. I sat in the front row with Charlotte, watching my son marry a woman he had known for 7 months. He looked happy, genuinely happy. That was the hardest part. Whatever Sienna was doing, Brandon believed it was real. He believed she loved him, and maybe part of her did. Maybe you could love someone and still plan to rob them blind. I didn't know anymore. The reception was elegant. String quartet, 5-course dinner, champagne that cost more per bottle than I spent on groceries in a month. Sienna had hired a professional photographer and videographer, not just for memories, for content. I watched her pose, adjust her dress, make sure every angle was perfect. This wasn't just a wedding, it was a production. Halfway through dinner, I excused myself to the restroom. The venue was beautiful, a restored barn with exposed beams and Edison bulbs. The restrooms were down a hallway, past the kitchen. I was almost there when I heard Sienna's voice coming from a small room off the hallway. The door was cracked open. She was on the phone. "I'm telling you, this is content gold," she said. Her voice had lost that sweet, careful tone. This was different, sharp, businesslike. Tech widow, prime real estate, old money. My followers are eating it up. The engagement on the wedding posts is insane. I stopped walking, stood very still. Once I get power of attorney, I'll document the whole caring daughter-in-law journey. The sympathy engagement will be massive. People love this stuff. Helping elderly family members, making hard decisions, showing the reality of aging. It's authentic content. My hand found the wall. I needed something solid. Brandon is easy to manage, Sienna continued. He's so focused on his startup. He barely notices what's happening at home, and she doesn't have other family, no siblings, no close relatives, just Brandon. Everything will be ours eventually. The house alone is worth over $1 million, plus the Tahoe cabin. The investments. She's sitting on at least $2 million in assets. The person on the other end said something I couldn't hear. No, she doesn't suspect anything. The smoothies are working perfectly. She's been foggy, forgetful, exactly like I need her to be. A few more months of that and we can start the incompetency process, get a doctor to evaluate her, show she can't manage her affairs, get guardianship. Then it's just a matter of time. Sienna laughed. Actually laughed. The best part, she's a software engineer. Everyone will think it's dementia. Early onset. So sad. Such a brilliant mind. The narrative writes itself. I stood in that hallway, expensive champagne in my stomach turning to acid, and understood. This wasn't opportunistic. This wasn't a young woman who saw a chance and took it. This was premeditated, planned. She had researched me, targeted Brandon, engineered this entire relationship to get access to my assets, and she was going to document it all for Instagram. I didn't go into the restroom. I walked back to the reception, found Charlotte, and whispered, "We need to leave. Now." She looked at my face and didn't ask questions. We made excuses about me feeling tired, hugged Brandon, congratulated the happy couple. Sienna smiled at me, that perfect influencer smile, and said, "Thank you so much for everything. Mom, I'm so glad you're part of our family now." I smiled back, said all the right things, and thought about how I was going to destroy her. Charlotte drove us back to Palo Alto. I told her everything I had heard, every word. She listened without interrupting, her hands tight on the steering wheel. "What are you going to do?" she asked when I finished. "I'm going to treat this like I would any other problem. Gather data, analyze it, find the vulnerabilities, execute a solution. Margaret, this isn't code. This is your daughter-in-law, your son's wife. She's a threat, and I'm going to eliminate her." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my study with my laptop and started researching. Security cameras, hidden cameras, audio recording laws in California, what was legal, what wasn't, what would hold up in court. I made lists, drew diagrams, planned. By Sunday morning, I knew what I needed to do. I called Diane Ross, my attorney. We had worked together for 15 years, ever since David died and I needed help with the estate. She was sharp, ruthless when necessary, and she didn't waste time on judgment. "Diane, I need your help. My daughter-in-law is planning to steal my assets by having me declared incompetent. She's been drugging me, and I need to build a case that will stand up in court." There was a pause. Then Diane said, "Tell me everything." I did, every detail. The smoothies, the symptoms, the overheard conversation, the Instagram strategy. Diane listened, asked questions, took notes. When I finished, she said, "We need evidence. Your word alone won't be enough. She'll say you're confused, paranoid, that your age is affecting your judgment. We need documentation. Video, audio, medical records, toxicology reports. We need to build an airtight case. I know. That's why I'm calling. I need to know what's legal. California is a two-party consent state for audio recording, but video surveillance in your own home is legal as long as there's no audio in areas where people have a reasonable expectation of privacy. Bathrooms, bedrooms where guests sleep, but common areas, living room, kitchen, that's fair game. What about if someone confesses to a crime on camera, if they're in your home, in a common area, and they're committing or planning a crime that's admissible, especially if it shows intent, premeditation. Good. I'm going to need recommendations for security systems, and I'm going to need you to start updating my estate plan. I want everything locked down, irrevocable trust, specific clauses about power of attorney, medical directives. I want it impossible for anyone to take control without my explicit consent. I'll start the paperwork tomorrow. I hung up and opened my laptop, started researching cameras. By Monday morning, I had ordered a complete system. By Tuesday, I was installing it. And by Wednesday, I was ready. The trap was set. Now I just had to wait for Sienna to walk into it. The security system arrived in 3 boxes on a Thursday morning. I signed for the delivery, carried them inside, and spread the components across my dining room table. 6 cameras, each no bigger than a smoke detector. A central hub, mounting hardware, instructions that assumed I had never seen a circuit board in my life. I had spent 30 years writing code, debugging systems, building networks from scratch. Installing cameras was simple. The challenge was doing it strategically. I needed coverage of every area where Sienna might go, every conversation she might have, every action she might take, and I needed it hidden well enough that she would never suspect. I started in the living room. The camera went inside the frame of a landscape painting David had bought in Carmel 20 years ago. I removed the backing, mounted the camera behind a small hole I drilled in the matting, and reassembled everything. From the outside, it looked exactly the same. From the inside, it had a perfect view of the entire room. The kitchen camera went into the housing of the smoke detector above the island. I replaced the standard detector with one that had a camera built in. It looked identical to the original. The bedroom camera, for the guest room where Sienna and Brandon sometimes stayed, went into a bookshelf tucked behind a row of novels. The study camera was easiest. I had so much equipment in there already. One more small device blended in perfectly. By Friday afternoon, the system was installed and connected to my home network. I downloaded the app on my phone, configured the motion detection, set up cloud storage. Every camera had a clear view. Every camera had excellent audio. And everything was recording to a server that Sienna could never access, never delete, never destroy. The next step was medical. I needed proof that I was competent, that my mind was sharp, that any confusion I experienced was artificial. I called my primary care physician, Dr. Sarah Kim. I had been seeing her for 15 years. She knew my medical history better than I did. Sarah, I need a favor. I need a complete cognitive assessment, memory tests, reasoning, problem solving, everything. Margaret, is something wrong? Are you having symptoms? I'm having symptoms that I believe are being caused by someone drugging me, and I need documentation that proves my baseline cognitive function is excellent. There was a pause. That's a serious accusation. I know, and I'm going to prove it, but I need your help. She scheduled me for the following week. 3 hours of testing, memory recall, pattern recognition, logical reasoning, spatial awareness. I scored in the 95th percentile for my age group. Dr. Kim wrote a detailed report. Patient shows no signs of cognitive decline. Memory, reasoning, and executive function are all excellent. Patient is fully competent to manage her own affairs. I took that report to Diane. She added it to the growing file. Medical competence, documented and dated. The hardest part was the smoothies. I needed proof of what Sienna was putting in them. The next time she visited, I drank half the smoothie in front of her, then excused myself to the kitchen. I poured the rest into a sealed container and hid it in the back of my refrigerator. After she left, I took it to a private lab that Diane recommended. The results came back 3 days later. Benzodiazepines, specifically lorazepam, a sedative used to treat anxiety and insomnia, at a dosage high enough to cause significant cognitive impairment, confusion, memory problems, slowed thinking. Exactly the symptoms I had been experiencing. I sat in my study, looking at the lab report, and felt something cold settle in my chest. She had been poisoning me, systematically, deliberately, creating the very symptoms she would later use to justify taking control of my life. I saved 3 more smoothie samples over the next 2 weeks. Each one tested positive. Each one showed increasing dosages. She was escalating. Diane and I met to update my estate plan. We created an irrevocable trust that held all my assets, the house, the cabin, the investments, everything. The trust had specific language. No one could access it without my explicit written consent, witnessed by 2 independent parties who had to verify my competence. If I became incapacitated, control went to a professional trustee, not to family. And if I died, everything went to a nonprofit that taught coding to underprivileged kids. Nothing went to Brandon while he was married to Sienna. "This is aggressive," Diane said. "If Brandon finds out, he's going to be hurt. If Brandon finds out, it means I'm dead or incapacitated, and at that point, his feelings are the least of my concerns." We also drafted new medical directives. No one could make medical decisions for me except Dr. Kim. No one could have me evaluated for competency except doctors I specifically approved. No one could admit me to any care facility without a court order. "You're building a fortress," Diane said. "I'm protecting myself from someone who wants to rob me and document it for social media." Yes, I'm building a fortress. The final piece was the most important. I needed to make sure that when Sienna made her move, when she finally showed her hand, I would have irrefutable evidence. The cameras were recording everything, but I needed her to confess, to say, on camera, exactly what she was doing and why. I knew she would eventually. People like Sienna, people who thought they were smarter than everyone else. They couldn't help themselves. They had to brag. They had to explain how clever they were. And when she did, I would have her. By the end of June, everything was in place. The cameras, the medical documentation, the legal protections, the toxicology reports. I had built a case that no court could ignore. Now I just needed Sienna to finish digging her own grave. I went to the Lake Tahoe cabin, told Brandon I needed some time away, some quiet to work on a project. He didn't ask questions. He was busy with his startup, busy with his new wife, busy with a life that didn't include checking on his mother as often as it used to. I sat on the deck, looking at the lake, and waited. The cameras were watching. The system was recording. And somewhere in Palo Alto, Sienna was planning her next move. I had spent my career anticipating problems, writing code to prevent failures, building systems that could withstand attacks. This was no different. Sienna thought she was attacking a confused old woman. She had no idea she was attacking a fortress, and fortresses don't fall easily. Sienna made her first official move 2 weeks after the wedding. She called on a Tuesday morning, her voice bright and cheerful. "Margaret, Brandon and I were talking last night. We're worried about you managing everything alone. The house, the finances, all those accounts and investments. It's a lot for anyone, especially at your age." At your age, she said it so casually, like it was a simple fact instead of an insult. "We thought it might be helpful if we took some of that burden off your shoulders. We found some paperwork that would let Brandon help with your banking, paying bills, managing the property, just to make things easier for you." "What kind of paperwork?" I asked, even though I knew exactly what she meant. "Power of attorney. It's really simple. You just sign, and then Brandon can help with all the complicated financial stuff. You wouldn't have to worry about anything anymore. I'll need to have my attorney review it first." There was a pause, a tiny crack in her cheerful facade. "Of course, that's smart. But really, it's just standard paperwork. Brandon and I only want to help. We care about you." "I appreciate that, but I don't sign anything without Diane looking at it first." After we hung up, the documents arrived by email within an hour. I forwarded them to Diane immediately. She called me back 30 minutes later. Margaret, if you signed this, you would be giving Brandon complete control over everything. Your bank accounts, your property, your investments. He could sell your house without your consent. He could empty your accounts. This isn't help. This is a complete transfer of power. I know. I just wanted it documented that she tried. I'm documenting everything. This is coercion, and we're building a timeline. I didn't sign. When Sienna called back 2 days later, I told her Diane had concerns and I needed more time to think. Her voice got tighter. The sweetness strained. We're just trying to help. Margaret. But if you don't trust us, I guess there's nothing we can do. That's when her Instagram strategy shifted. She started posting about elder care, not mentioning me by name, but the timing was obvious. When you notice cognitive changes in a loved one, the hard conversation about independence, recognizing when someone needs help, even if they don't want it. The posts got thousands of likes, hundreds of comments. You're so brave for sharing this. This must be so difficult. What a caring daughter-in-law. She was building a narrative, planting the idea that I was declining, that I needed help, that she was the caring family member trying to do the right thing, and 50,000 people were watching, believing, supporting her. The smoothies continued. She visited twice a week now, always with a fresh blend. I made your favorite, she would say, handing me the glass. I drank it in front of her, watched her watch me, then excused myself to the kitchen and poured the rest into a sample container. Every single one tested positive for benzodiazepines, and the dosages were increasing. She was escalating. Brandon started repeating her words. He called one Sunday, his voice concerned. "Mom, Sienna says you seemed really confused last week. She's worried about you." I wasn't confused, Brandon. I was tired. She said you forgot what day it was, and you were asking the same questions over and over. I had done neither of those things. Brandon, I'm fine. I'm sharper than most 30-year-olds. I know you think that, Mom, but sometimes people don't realize when they're having problems. Sienna works with a lot of elderly people through her wellness brand. She knows the signs. Elderly people. I was 62, not 80, but in Sienna's narrative, I was elderly, declining, in need of intervention. I had a cognitive assessment done 3 weeks ago, I said. Dr. Kim says I'm completely competent. I scored in the 95th percentile. Why did you need a cognitive assessment? Because I wanted documentation that I'm fine. He was quiet for a moment. Mom, that's kind of paranoid. Why would you need documentation? Because your wife is drugging me and planning to steal everything I own, I thought. But I said, because I'm being careful. Brandon, there's nothing wrong with being careful. After we hung up, I sat in my study and watched the camera footage from Sienna's last visit. She had walked through my house like she was appraising it, running her hand along the furniture, looking at the art on the walls, opening drawers when she thought I wasn't watching. In the kitchen, while I was in the bathroom, she had opened cabinets, checked the contents, taken photos with her phone. She wasn't just planning to take my assets, she was cataloging them, making an inventory, preparing. The cameras caught everything. Her looking through my mail when I left the room, her trying the door to my study, finding it locked, looking frustrated. Her standing in my living room, arms crossed, staring around like she was mentally calculating square footage and resale value. And then, one afternoon in late July, she made a mistake. She thought I was in the garden. I had told her I was going out to water the roses, but I had come back inside through the side door, and I was in the kitchen when I heard her voice in the living room. She was on the phone, and she wasn't being careful. The power of attorney didn't work. She's being stubborn about it, but that's fine. We'll go another route. Pause. No, the smoothies are working perfectly. She's definitely showing symptoms. Brandon's noticed. I've been documenting everything on Instagram, building the narrative. Another pause. We'll give it another month. Then I'll suggest a family meeting. Get some people together who can witness her confusion. Maybe bring in a doctor friend who can do an informal evaluation. Once we have enough people saying she's not competent, we can petition for guardianship. I stood in the kitchen, phone in my pocket, recording everything as backup to the cameras, and listened to her plan my life away. The house alone will sell for over $1 million. We can get her into a nice facility, something affordable, and keep the rest. Plus, the Tahoe place. I'm thinking we could turn that into a rental property, make it part of my brand. Wellness retreats, content creation, that kind of thing. She was already spending my money, already planning what to do with my home, and she was doing it with the confidence of someone who thought they had already won. But she hadn't won. She had just given me everything I needed, her confession on camera, with perfect audio, time-stamped and saved to the cloud. I waited until she left, watched her drive away on the camera feed, then I called Diane. She just confessed to everything. Planning guardianship, the smoothies, the Instagram strategy, plans to sell my house. It's all on camera. Good. Don't confront her. Don't let her know you know. Let her keep going. The more she does, the stronger our case. It was the hardest thing I had ever done, pretending I didn't know, smiling when she visited, drinking the smoothies, or pretending to, listening to her talk about how much she cared while knowing exactly what she was planning. But I had learned patience from 30 years of debugging code. Sometimes you had to let the program run, let the errors accumulate, so you could see the full scope of the problem. Sienna was accumulating errors, and I was documenting every single one. The call came Friday afternoon in early August. Sienna's voice careful and concerned. Margaret, we need to have a family discussion. Can you come Sunday for lunch? Brandon and I want to talk about something important. I knew what this was. The intervention she had mentioned on that phone call. What kind of discussion? Just some things we've been worried about. My mom and brother are coming from Kansas, and we've invited a family therapist and an elder care consultant just to give us guidance, an ambush, witnesses, professionals to testify to my supposed incompetence. What time? Noon. Don't worry, Margaret. We all love you. We just want to help. I called Diane. It's happening Sunday. Family intervention with witnesses. Don't go. I have to. I need documentation of the coercion. Sunday arrived. I drove to Brandon and Sienna's apartment in Mountain View. The room was full. Brandon looking uncomfortable. Sienna perfectly styled. Her mother, Linda. Brother Travis. A woman with a clipboard introduced as Dr. Patricia Wells, family therapist. A man in a suit, Robert Chen, elder care consultant. I sat on the couch. Everyone arranged themselves around me. It felt like a trial. Sienna started. Margaret, we've all been worried. We've noticed changes. You've been forgetful, confused about dates, missing appointments. I had done none of those things. I haven't missed any appointments. Linda spoke. Honey, denial is common. My mother insisted she was fine right up until she got lost driving to the store. Dr. Wells leaned forward. Margaret, the family has concerns about your ability to live independently, managing a large home, handling finances. These are complex tasks. I've been managing them for 40 years. Travis interrupted. My grandmother said the same thing, but she wasn't managing. She had thousands in unpaid bills, wasn't eating properly. They had rehearsed this. Every person had a line, a reason why I couldn't be trusted. Sienna pulled papers from a folder. We've prepared a voluntary guardianship agreement. You acknowledge you need help, and you authorize Brandon and me to handle your affairs. You'd still live in your house. We'd just take care of the complicated stuff. I looked at the papers, then at Brandon. He wouldn't meet my eyes. I'm not signing that. Sienna's smile tightened. We're trying to do this the easy way. If you don't sign voluntarily, we'll go to court. Everyone here can testify you're not competent. A judge will order an evaluation. When that shows you can't take care of yourself, they'll assign a guardian anyway. Wouldn't it be better if it was family? Sign and lose everything. Refuse and they'd force it through courts with false testimony. I need to use the restroom. In the bathroom, I texted Diane. They're trying to force guardianship. Multiple witnesses, therapist and consultant, need help. Her response was immediate. Don't sign anything, leave now. Filing emergency motion. We have all the evidence. This is coercion. I walked back to the living room. I will not sign that document. And if you try to force me, my attorney will take legal action against all of you for coercion and fraud. The room went silent. Brandon spoke. Mom, what are you talking about? Ask your wife about the benzodiazepines in my smoothies. Ask her about the phone call where she discussed getting guardianship to sell my house. Ask her about the Instagram strategy, the content gold, the sympathy engagement. Sienna's face went pale. That's insane, Brandon. She's delusional. I have recordings, video and audio from cameras throughout my house, toxicology reports showing sedatives in the smoothies, medical evaluations proving I'm completely competent. And I have your confession. Sienna, all of it. Time-stamped. Saved to the cloud. Already in my attorney's possession. I turned to Brandon. Your wife married you to get access to my assets. She's been drugging me to make me appear incompetent so she could take control and document it for her Instagram followers. And you helped her by believing every lie. That's not true. Sienna's voice was sharp, the sweetness gone. She's sick. Then explain the lab reports. Explain the camera footage. Explain why you told someone my house would sell for over $1 million and you'd turn my Tahoe cabin into a wellness retreat for your brand. Brandon stared at Sienna. Is that true? Of course not. She's confused. I picked up my purse. I'm leaving. The next time any of you enter my property without permission, I'm calling the police. I walked out. No one stopped me. In my car, hands shaking, I sat before starting the engine. My phone buzzed. Diane. Emergency restraining order filed. Police notified about the drugging. Come to my office tomorrow. We're going on the offensive. I drove to Lake Tahoe. I needed distance. Because Sienna knew now that I knew. And desperate people do desperate things. But so do cornered engineers. And I wasn't cornered. I was armed with evidence, protected by law and ready for whatever came next. 3 days of silence at the cabin. Diane filed restraining orders and police reports. Sienna called repeatedly, first apologetic, then angry, finally threatening. You can't hide forever. I didn't respond. I was waiting. The answer came at 5 a.m. Wednesday. My phone exploded with alerts. I opened the security app. Sienna in my living room with 3 men in work uniforms and a film crew. Camera on stabilizer, ring light, boxes. I checked Instagram, live streaming. 50,000 watching. Caption, hardest day. Helping mom transition to assisted living. Prayers needed. Comments flooded. You're so strong. What a good daughter-in-law. I called Diane. It's happening. She's there with crew and movers, live streaming. Perfect. Police 7 minutes out. Let the cameras record everything. I watched both feeds. On Instagram, Sienna performed. This is mom's favorite couch. Breaks my heart to pack it. The memory care facility is fully furnished. Memory care facility, telling 50,000 people I had dementia. Security cameras showed truth. Off camera. She tried on my jewelry. This will look great in my content. She directed movers. Take expensive stuff first. Art, electronics, furniture. Sell it before she knows it's gone. A mover hesitated. Do you have paperwork? Sienna pulled papers. Power of attorney. Everything's legal. The mover looked closer. This isn't signed by the owner. Yes, it is. Ma'am, I've done this 15 years. This is fake. Sienna's face hardened. I'll pay double. 5,000 cash. Just get everything out quickly. One mover shook his head. "This isn't right. I'm leaving." Sienna called someone. Security cameras caught everything. I'm inside, but one mover bailed. Others are nervous. Pause. Then, the smoothie thing worked perfectly. She seemed confused at that meeting, but she claimed she had cameras. I don't know if she was bluffing. Another pause. Sienna laughed. Even if she has something, by the time she gets back, everything will be sold. House listed next week. Once we get guardianship, it's over. She has no one else. Confessing everything? Drugging? Selling my house? Guardianship scheme? Recorded from 3 angles with perfect audio. With what's here? 20,000 easy. Plus house worth over $1 million. Tahoe Place another 400,000. We'll be set for years. What's she going to do? She has no proof. Accusations just prove she's paranoid. Exactly what we need. Remaining movers loaded my couch. Sienna went to my bedroom. Camera showed her taking jewelry, putting it in her purse. She held up a necklace David gave me. Worth at least 5,000? Perfect. Then sirens, distant, then closer. Sienna heard them, ran to window, looked down. Face went white. No. She ended the live stream, ran to movers. Leave everything. Go now. Too late. Hallway camera showed elevator opening. 4 officers stepped out, hands on weapons. Police, nobody move. Sienna tried to run. Officer caught her, pushed her against wall, handcuffed her. Let me go. I have permission. I'm her daughter-in-law. You're under arrest for trespassing, attempted theft, and fraud. The owner, Margaret Chen, filed a report. No, call my husband. His mother gave me permission. The owner is very clear. You don't have permission, you don't have power of attorney, you're committing multiple crimes. 2 movers also handcuffed. One protested, I just work for the company. I didn't know this was illegal. I watched them lead Sienna out, screaming. This is wrong. I was helping her. She's confused. Neighbors came out, watching, filming. By evening, it would be everywhere. Not Sienna's curated version. The truth. Diane called. Did you see it? Every second. Recordings are with the district attorney. We have trespassing, attempted theft, fraud, forgery, and her confession about poisoning. This is solid. I sat watching sunrise over the lake. After months of planning, it was over. What happens now? Sienna spends tonight in jail. Tomorrow, bail hearing. We'll present everything. DA will ask for denial because she's a danger. Then we prepare for trial. I hung up. The mountain air was crisp. For the first time in 6 months, I could breathe fully. My phone buzzed. Text from Brandon. Mom, please. I need to talk. Sienna is arrested. I don't understand. Please call. I stared at the message. My son, who believed a woman he'd known 7 months over the mother who raised him, who called me paranoid. Confused, I didn't respond. Not yet. There would be time for that conversation. But not today. Today I sat on my deck, watched the sun rise, and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Safe, in control, victorious. I had built a trap using cameras, documentation, and patience. Sienna walked right into it, live streaming her own arrest to 50,000 followers. Sometimes the best code is simplest, and sometimes the best revenge is letting people destroy themselves while you watch from safe distance with perfect documentation. The bail hearing was 3 days later. Diane insisted I attend. They need to see you. Not a confused old woman like Sienna claims. A strong, coherent woman who knows exactly what was done to her. I dressed carefully. Gray pantsuit, white blouse. Professional. Charlotte came with me, sat beside me in the courtroom, squeezed my hand. When they brought Sienna in, I barely recognized her. No makeup, hair messy, orange jail uniform. She looked small, vulnerable. But when our eyes met, I saw the same coldness. Brandon sat in the back row. He looked destroyed. Red eyes, wrinkled clothes. He looked at me pleading. I looked away. The judge entered. A woman in her 50s, serious expression. She reviewed documents silently. Miss Sienna Blackwell, you're accused of trespassing, attempted theft, fraud, and attempted poisoning. How do you plead? Sienna's lawyer stood, young man, cheap suit. Not guilty, Your Honor. My client was trying to help her mother-in-law who suffers from dementia. The judge looked skeptical. Do you have proof of that claim? Not at this moment, but then it's not relevant. She turned to the prosecutor. Does the prosecution have evidence? The prosecutor, older man with experience, stood. Yes, Your Honor. We have video and audio recordings of the accused entering the victim's home without authorization, recordings of the accused confessing to adulterating food with sedatives, laboratory analysis confirming benzodiazepines in the victim's food, witnesses who confirm the accused attempted to bribe them to participate in the theft. Your Honor, the prosecutor continued, Miss Blackwell represents a clear danger. If bail is granted, she may contact the victim or destroy evidence. The judge looked at Sienna. Anything to add? Sienna stood, voice shaking. Your Honor, this is a misunderstanding. I love my mother-in-law. Everything I did was to help her. She's confused. The recordings are quite clear, the judge said dryly. Those are taken out of context. I never poisoned anything. The judge reviewed more papers. It says here you also live-streamed entering the victim's home to 50,000 social media followers, claiming she was being moved to memory care. Is that correct? I was documenting a difficult family moment. My followers support me through hard times. You were documenting a crime. The judge said, bail is denied. Miss Blackwell will remain detained pending trial. Given the severity of charges, especially attempted poisoning, I consider her a danger to the victim and society. Sienna screamed, No, this isn't fair. Brandon, do something. Brandon stood. Your Honor, please. There must be a mistake. The judge looked at him. You're the victim's son. Yes. Were you aware of your wife's actions? Brandon hesitated. That hesitation condemned him. She told me my mother needed help, that she was confused. I believed her. I couldn't stay silent. You believed her over me, your wife of months over your mother who raised you alone. I didn't know it would go this far. You didn't know. How many times did I tell you something was wrong? How many times did you call me paranoid? You made me doubt my own reality. His voice cracked. I'm sorry. Sorry. The rage I'd suppressed for months erupted. I almost ended up in a nursing home. Your wife poisoned me. She planned to steal everything I own, and you helped her by believing her instead of me. Mom, please, she's my wife. Then support her. Visit her in jail. But don't ask me to understand. Don't ask me to forgive. Because I chose to protect myself. I chose to believe in myself when no one else would. Charlotte took my arm. Margaret, let's go. I looked at Brandon one last time. If you ever understand what you did, we can talk. But until then, I need distance. I walked out. In the car, Charlotte drove silently, then spoke. You did the right thing. It doesn't feel right. It never does at first, but in time, you'll see it was necessary. 3 months later, the trial began. The courtroom was full. People I didn't know, reporters. Apparently the case had drawn attention. Tech widow defends herself from manipulative influencer daughter-in-law. The trial lasted 2 weeks. Evidence mounted. Camera recordings played in court. I watched jurors react when they heard Sienna confessing to poisoning, saw their faces turn to disgust when they watched her going through my drawers, stealing my things. The lab analysis was presented. The doctor testified that benzodiazepine amounts found were enough to cause severe confusion, memory loss, disorientation, symptoms easily mistaken for dementia. Dr. Kim testified about my evaluation, explained in detail I was completely competent, intelligent, articulate, with full control of my mental faculties. The movers testified. One explained Sienna offered $5,000 to help force entry, showed fake documents. Then it was my turn. I took the stand, swore to tell the truth. The prosecutor asked about my relationship with Brandon, how I met Sienna, the changes I noticed, the dizziness, the manipulation. I spoke in a clear, firm voice. No crying, no drama, just truth. She made me doubt myself, I said, made me feel like I was losing my mind, that my age made me incapable. The worst part, I almost believed her. What did you realize? The prosecutor asked. I realized that being 62 doesn't make me incompetent. Being a widow doesn't make me vulnerable. Living alone doesn't make me weak. I'm a woman who worked her whole life, raised a son alone, bought my own property with my own money. No one has the right to take that from me. No one has the right to make me feel less than I am. I saw several women in the audience nod, saw tears in some eyes. After 2 weeks, the jury deliberated. 4 hours later, they returned. Guilty on all counts. Sienna screamed. Her lawyer tried to calm her. Nothing could be done. The evidence was overwhelming. Sentencing came 1 week later. 6 years in prison. When the judge delivered the verdict, I felt something strange. Not joy. Not satisfaction. Closure. Confirmation that my truth mattered, that defending my dignity was worth it. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked for statements. Diane spoke for me about being satisfied with the result, but one reporter came directly to me. Miss Chen, do you have anything to say to other people who might be going through similar situations? I looked into the camera, thought of all the messages I'd received during the trial. Older people who felt invisible in their families, who doubted themselves. If something doesn't feel right, trust your instincts. No matter how old you are, no matter if people tell you you're overreacting, you know your life, you know your mind. You have the right to protect yourself. You have the right to say no. You have the right to set boundaries, even with family, especially with family. The months after were about rebuilding. I sold nothing, kept my house, my cabin, my independence, but I started something new, a nonprofit called Tech Literacy for Seniors, teaching older adults about smart home security, online safety, digital documentation. Technology isn't just for young people. It can protect you. Classes filled immediately. I connected with other elder abuse survivors, started a support group, shared my story, technical strategies for protection. You're not alone, and you're not helpless. 6 months after the trial, Brandon and I met for coffee. Awkward at first, then honest. He talked about therapy, learning to recognize manipulation, his divorce proceedings. I talked about my new life, my nonprofit, teaching others. We didn't go back to what we were. That relationship died. But we were building something new, based on respect, boundaries, honesty, monthly coffee dates, slow rebuilding, 1 year after everything. I sat on my deck at Lake Tahoe, watching sunset. My phone buzzed. Message from Brandon. Mom, 1 year in therapy, learning so much. Thank you for not giving up on me. I smiled. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but maybe with time, it could be. I had learned the most important lesson. Taking care of others is beautiful, but taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. It's dignity. It's self-love. For so many years, I took care of everyone. My husband when he was sick, Brandon as he grew up, whoever needed me. But finally, after 62 years, I was the one who decided whom to care for. And I chose myself, and that choice saved my life. I'm Margaret Chen. I'm a software engineer, I'm 62 years old, and I'm still debugging problems, still writing solutions, still refusing to be a victim, because the best code is the one that protects itself, and the best life is the one where you refuse to let anyone else write your story.